Hello and welcome to the Moonbase 2 podcast. I'm your host David, aka KalelPrime, and I'm joined in this rather late and cosy and well-packed session of the podcast by my ever-lovable convention-going cohort.
Hi guys, it's me, Cobra Commander TFW here, or Andy.
And the room is packed.
Is a plethora of people we have just met and people who we have known for many a long time.
So, just to give you an idea, we're recording this on Saturday night. You've just come back from an Indian and I've just had a most spectacular burger.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad we separated because I don't think I could have had a stinking greasy burger.
It's alright, don't worry, I couldn't have had a stinking greasy Indian.
But I loved having it.
Oh.
Yeah, let's leave that one there.
Right, so what we're going to do is we're just going to go around and just see who is in the room. So obviously, as always, because she's always there, we've got Nicole.
That'd be me. Hello.
That'd be you.
She did say hello if you didn't pick it up.
Yeah.
Hello.
Obviously, Oddwat City is in full effect this time.
Hi, this is Time Lord.
Optimus Prime has rolled in because Tony's here.
Yes, I'm with SG1. Hello.
The wolf is howling at our door.
Rough. Hello, lads. G-Wolf here.
Adam's here.
Nothing smarter to say.
What?
Who's Adam? Who's Adam?
I thought your name was Adam.
No, it's Jeff.
Where did I get Adam from? Alright, Jeff's here.
Hello.
I feel really bad now. That's
I'm
absolutely
not
terrible.
Adam.
It's not coming out,
Are you
that's
just thinking of the Addams family or something?
And
Just lurch.
and here's a
Just
best that's Chris McPhee.
Hi everybody, Chris
here. And continuing the epic family value, it's Hovan Rojas.
Cousin it.
And of course, rounding the team off as always is the incomparable. It's so
Incomparable. That's
Yes,
incomparable.
I'm here as well, everybody. Yes.
So, oh god, this has been.
What a day, man.
It's been pretty awesome.
Yeah, man.
I would say this convention has been fucking brilliant.
It
Understatement.
Seconded.
So let's find out first.
It sucks.
Nicole, my dear lady, you have bad taste.
Apparently, I'm hanging out with you guys. Just kidding.
I'm sorry, but obviously I misheard something. What do the Red Sox have to do with anything?
The Red Sox.
It sucked.
It sucked. Oh, I thought she said Red Sox. I thought she was
Yeah,
talking.
you said it.
I thought she was talking American.
I am talking.
Do they play moon baseball?
So-
Sanity and taste just went out the window.
Drinking.
So there's a whole bunch of us. Well, obviously Andy, you and Joe Armada went for an Indian.
Yes.
While the rest of us went banged away to next of kin, who finally
I
realised.
missed that.
Who finally realised after 3 songs where the bread and butter was at this convention.
We're talking.
So what we're going to do is we're just going to go around everybody and basically just come up with what you think so far has been the highlight. Andy,
What? Me first to
well,
start off.
you're the co-host.
Okay, so put me right on the spot. Prime time of the show, meeting people I did not know.
No,
even-
you can't like get it. I want specifics.
Oh god, watching Dinobot. Give it his all.
Let's have it.
Dinobot! Maximize!
Right, Simon, what about you?
Don't say nothing.
What about me? Sorry.
Well, highlight of the convention.
Highlight of the convention. I have to admit, the highlight of the convention, I'm not going to give an absolute pussy answer and say, oh, you guys, but the absolute highlight of the convention, I've got to say, was sitting out on that balcony and having a beer with Gregg Berger.
Yes.
I think that was absolute. The man has got my respect through the roof. If someone said to me, you can go in that door, Frank Welker and Peter Cullen are in there waiting for you. In the other door, you've got Gregg Berger. I would go in and see Gregg Berger.
I actually can't wait for you to die and go to heaven, and that just be your option.
Yeah, the man is an absolute legend. The fact that he we're all sat outside and he just materialised and then hung out for like hours.
I think it's quite telling that like we haven't known the guy. Well, some of us haven't known the guy for 24 hours, but everybody's got a Gregg Berger story already.
Yeah.
Like
I was stood out in the balcony and I was just sort of bored and propped up against the thing, and he came over and he started speaking to me, and I was like, "What's your Gregg Berger?"
You're not supposed to speak to this.
Yes, you shouldn't speak to those lower beings.
Interestingly enough, I added him to Facebook, and then my mum bizarrely added him as well. And then after I got my autographs, he asked how my mum was.
Oh, shit, really?
I couldn't believe it. Anyway, yeah, she's fine.
He's here without the wife.
Yeah. But the fact that he remembered, because he said, "Oh yeah, your name's Thrussell, isn't it?" I went, "Yeah." And he goes, "Oh, there's another Thrussell on Facebook." I said, "Oh yeah, that's my mum." And then he went, "Well, how is she? Is she okay?" And I went,
Well, he tried to remember me, it was me,
Gregg
you,
Berger,
Nicole, and
Mark.
Mark. And he remembered her name within seconds.
yeah, I remembered. I remembered mum.
But it's not just limited to like the last 2 days. I mean, he remembered Vangelis from TFCon last year.
Specifically as well.
Like specifically, I said, "Do you remember Chris?" And it was like, Chris, Vangelis. Yeah, like he knew it, and it's like the guy obviously comes to these conventions and doesn't just do the job he's paid to do. He actually takes.
Well,
Well, is anyone else
He
here?
even got my name right.
Ladies and gentlemen,
I wonder
we're
if that
about
could
to be joined by a special guest.
Yes, indeed.
Well,
It's Mark. I heard the noise from the hallway. I said, "What the hell have you led me to?"
Ladies and gentlemen, live on the Moonbase 2 podcast, Mr. Gregg Berger.
Thanks for having me in the penthouse.
So we're currently recording the Moonbase 2 podcast.
Well, no one told me that. I would have prepared. I wouldn't have come straight from dancing, so I would be...
we heard we missed out on the Ghostbuster dance.
Now, at some point this weekend, I'm supposed to sit down with you and do some questions, so I'm completely unprepared. So
That makes two of us.
So what I think might be quite a good idea to do is to just go around everybody in the room and just ask you one question.
Hit me. If I don't know the answer, I'll make one up.
He's getting violent.
So has anybody? Has anybody got anything that?
You're not all staying in this room, are you? No. In violation of some quality.
I'll tell you what. I'll kick off just with a very simple one. How are you finding auto assembly this year?
Quite brilliant. I've just come from Comic-Con San Diego a few weeks ago. 130,000 people. It's hard to have a one-on-one. It's an incredible wash of energy and vitality, but it's hard to settle into a real conversation with anybody because just of the density of the event. This is perfect and intimate, and yet still peopled and still overwhelming in terms of size for the event that it is, but accessible is the word I would say most. I come to all of these because it's my opportunity to say thank you. I assume that people come because it's their opportunity to say thank you. This is an intersect point of a disparate group of people. Tell me if I'm going on too long.
Oh, no.
I said it on the patio over drinks last night, but it's almost like a Close Encounters kind of phenomenon. All of these events, and the more narrowcast the event, the more Close Encounters, just as a reference, it is, because this disparate group of people is drawn toward a single event. From Salt Lake, from neighboring counties, from neighboring countries, because they want that sense of community. That sense of community happens here. It happens here because it's created by the energy that comes here from all of those places. That's an extraordinary thing to tap into, and it has a power. And it's an extraordinary thing to tap into because there's one common frame of reference. I said to someone else, from the moment the event begins, we all become spokes in the same wheel. That's really an extraordinary event just by the nature of its happening. Simon Plum, the organizer, told me this began in a pub with 10 people 20 years ago or something like that. And they thought, what if we do it again? and then 15 people came, and they thought, what if we do it again? And then 30 people came, and then 60 people came, and they thought, this exists. It has its own, it is a reality. It was a reality at 10, by the way. None of the numbers matter. What matters is the sincerity of the attendees. This has been a fantastic weekend, and stop me when I'm blabbing, because I'll do that.
No, this has actually turned into just, we're just going to listen and you.
And doubly extraordinary because it's afforded my son and daughter the opportunity to come with me to England. My daughter, my wife would have come as well. She's taking care of her mother, who took a fall and is 94 years old. And so it was her idea to bring both my son and my daughter. We got here last Saturday. We decided to do England as locals, not as tourists, not end up in a bus of 50 people with Bermuda shorts and black socks and cameras around our necks, but to run our asses off for every train, every tube, and if we made it, we made it. If we missed it, we missed it, but regardless, I swear to you, we've had an adventure every day that we're here. And that would be my suggestion to anyone traveling anywhere, is to attempt to do it as a local, not bring outside prejudice to it as far as what you think the experience will be, but rather let the experience define itself to you. But what do I know?
Can I just actually point something out? That we've been doing this now for about the last, hour and 15 minutes, and hardly anyone has actually managed to get a whole sentence out, yet there hasn't been a peep out of 12 people while Gregg's been talking. Like, no one's got a sentence finished the entire time.
And may I point something out? I just got off the dance floor downstairs, and you don't start perspiring till you stop dancing. So if I stop occasionally to just sort of drain water, bear with me.
Don't worry about it. This is all audio based only. We've just got the video for ourselves.
Yeah, make sure you cut the carpet out and set it.
Oh.
Straight on eBay.
Let me just draw around your foot.
Let me just steal your shoe and stick.
So has anybody got any other questions on it?
If there's a farrier present, I could use some horseshoes.
Yes, I would like to
Or
ask
some
you
donkey
one
shoes.
question. I don't know if we're going to get round to it tomorrow, because it's one I've been wanting to put to you for ages, and it's very much a very bad fanboy thing. It's for me just as bad as the one you are on the Metronome collection. But how did you feel about Grimlock turning into such an idiot in Series 3?
Oh, that's a good question.
Sorry, man.
I will answer, and it won't be a funny answer. I'll
That's
simply
fine.
tell you that the actor's task is to take whatever you're given. And if you're fortunate enough to be in an episodic series that has an arc and has changes, your goal is not to analyze or criticize what you've been handed, but to find a way to get from where you are to where you're supposed to be. Does that make sense?
I understand exactly, yes.
So I didn't perceive any of that in those terms, which are outside terms and judgments. I simply got a new brain and got smarter. I mean, I dropped the script when I saw that's where I had to get to. I read on, and wherever I was asked to take it, I tried to take it with the same core and the same, I won't say intensity, but intention that I took on the first episodes. I tried to stay consistent. That was my job. As far as those kind of assessments, I think those are made from the outside in. Those are things I do as a viewer of other things, but it's not the way I work as an actor, and so I can't perceive it that way from the inside out, only from the outside in, if that makes sense.
I understand, yes, because I suppose for you guys, like, it's very much a job. I mean, there have been TV series and cartoons that have come and gone over the years that, you know, they haven't gathered the status that so many things like Transformers have. So for you guys, it was a job. I mean, for us, if from one of us looking from the outside, from our perspective looking at it, it's like it was one of the big horror stories. But I suppose for you guys, it's just a job. It's no worse than anything that we do.
I think even that short sells that it's a task, not a job. I mean, and this is just me, but I accept roles as something that's been entrusted to me by sort of a brain trust of writers and artists, both of which largely go ridiculously unsung in the process, because frankly, voice actors for animation are the last in, the first out, know the least about the story, which has been in preparation for a long time before we're asked to come in or entrusted with figuring out how to get from point A to point B. And I'm not trying to go all serious on it, but and I'm also not undervaluing our contribution. I think the result is a third dimension that you either believe or you don't. There's a million great shows, believable shows, three-dimensional shows that don't make it more than 4 weeks or 6 weeks or 8 weeks. If something does, and if it has the longevity that this has, I think that you trust, accept, and embrace the fact that some X factor is present, and that it's more than selling toys and more than bendable figures or fixable figures. Something happened, and I think if you accept that it happened, then you accept it with humility and gratitude for all of the elements that caused it to happen, without anyone knowing that the other elements would be the right fit.
Yes. Thank you. Yes.
Anybody else got any?
Oh, I have one, but I do want to start with a small bit of an apology, because when I showed up to the signing, I may have been a small bit brisk.
The nerve.
Well, ever since yesterday, I've basically just been getting, you saw Gregg Berger and you nearly fainted. So I'm basically the same thing, just anyway. I was curious.
In that case, apology not accepted because it's utterly unnecessary.
This is lovely. I've now been, he's great.
He didn't say anything.
No, he was. Peter Cullen and Frank Welcome, whenever they're interviewed or whatever about Transformers, they often say that they had no clue what was really going on with the growing fan base, whatever. At what point did you come aware that it was as big as it was becoming?
Seriously, honestly, I would say the same thing as them. I knew that I was proud of the work that I was doing. I was certainly proud of the work that they were doing and that I was doing in their presence, and Arthur Burkhart, and Corey Burton, and Jack Angel, and Dick Gautier. I would say Corey Burton and I were kind of the new kids at that time, so I was so busy just sort of basking in the fact that I have been entrusted with the role and working with these people that I felt so highly about. Again, not undervaluing my contribution because I'd been entrusted to bring a life to this, but that I was working with them. I wasn't an apprentice, I wasn't anything. It was an extraordinarily professional game of jump rope, and I needed to make sure that no one had me as the one that tripped. And so I probably cared to an excessive degree by other people's standards, not by my own. That's what I thought I had to do to bring my game up to the game that was going on. I also don't know how I got my voice to come out of my shoes when I was significantly younger. I also don't know how I protected my tonsils and my vocal cords through what were very rigorous sessions. I'm not comparing voice work to heavy lifting because give me voice work.
Yeah.
But I'll jump real quickly to a lot of the video games, interactive games that I do, where you have to die 50 different horrible deaths off 50 different cliffs or 50 different flaming dives to your death, whatever it is. I know a lot of people, and I was certainly encouraged in conservatory to learn to find ways to really conserve and protect the voice, but usually it involved holding back and not giving 100%. I have found, and I don't recommend this for anybody else, but I also don't discourage it, is the more you're in it and the more you give 150%, the sooner everybody is satisfied with the result and you move on. So if you're protective, you may be there an hour longer because you're secretly trying to prevent something that you might have achieved by just giving in. And I'm seeing people that I just acted with tonight, and
Still can't believe it.
and that would be what I would say is the more you're in it and give yourself to it and allow it to give itself to you, the sooner everybody can achieve what a competent director is going to require anyway. So just do it, be it, give it, and figure it out. And in some strange way, I think there's some self-defense in that, just because you just did it. You didn't go out of your way to destroy your voice or not to destroy your voice. You just committed to the moment. It really comes down to being in the moment. And I feel like I probably have taken 6 different left turns and gone off the question completely. Anyway, that's where I went.
But you steered actually onto another question, which I think, I don't know if it feels like a bit of a cliche when voice actors, and I've completely forgotten the name of the person who I'm about to ask you about, so I'm going to turn to our resident genius over there. Transformers voice director.
Wally Berger.
Wally Berger.
Why don't you ask me?
It's nothing personal, but if I don't ask him, he gets upset.
Oh, I know. There's a chain of, I don't want to interfere with any bureaucracy.
He starts biting.
If it wasn't, if it wasn't for red tape, there'd be no tape at all. Wait a minute, that sounds good.
Wally Berger, every actor on Generation 1 who is asked about him has a story to tell about Wally. Whether it be, working ridiculously long hours and, being an absolute perfectionist. Do you think that, going back to what you just said there about giving him 110% constantly, do you think that's part of Transformers' success? Because prior to, Transformers animation was a little bit sort of stifled in its sort of range.
I will tell you on the same subject from Wally Berger's point of view, I think you would be hard pressed to find anyone who cared as much about the storyboard and his side of the glass as Wally did. All directors, I mean, I've had phenomenal good fortune with directors who really, really understood whatever that product was, and if it was a funny story, then the goal is to find the humor and make it contagious and make it real. This was an epic tale. This remains an epic tale. Wally, and I was doing both G.I. Joe and Transformers, as was Frank, and as was Michael Bell, and as was, who else was in both casts?
Chris Latta.
Chris Latta, may he rest in well-deserved peace. And the rest of us who were in both shows, we really, really needed agents because we didn't know where we were supposed to be the next day or the next afternoon or whatever it was. Wally was manning the helm of both of those shows. He scoured those scripts. He pored over them with the same devotion that I hope answers the 110% question. That's how much he cared. And he wouldn't allow anything less than what he required. Now it's 25 years later, so however long it took, whatever he put into it, whatever we put into it, and yes, they were grueling sessions, not compared to heavy lifting, but they were grueling, and that's part of why we're all still friends. I'm still friends with all of these people because it was such a shared experience, and we spent so many down hours, although he was a stickler about having everyone in the room who was in a given scene together, who wanted that ensemble feel. So what could be perceived as a benevolent dictator was a guy who knew what he wanted, knew when he had it, and didn't accept anything less than what he required. He was building those epic battles, and he wouldn't allow anyone to let down, nor should he, nor should anybody. And I think that's part of why the result has had as much longevity as it has had. It's all of the elements.
And I think it's telling that when Transformers fans, like we all are, get together and we start picking over Generation 1, we'll pick on the animation, we'll pick on the continuity, we'll pick on that. Nobody picks on the voice acting. It is the glue that just makes that.
Dave,
yeah.
Can I just run the next question?
Yeah, cool.
Can I just point something out? That if Greg's okay still doing an interview tomorrow, don't ask all these questions now.
No.
And before we move on, Neil Ross was in both casts. I only say that because Neil Ross said something that I never forgot, which is, to your point just now, if you, not to take anything away from the art, which is magnificent and thought out, but if you were to lose the visual on these episodes, they would absolutely hold up as a perfect radio play, and you would leave with a complete sense of the story.
Yeah.
If the sound went out, you would have a gorgeous series of cells and images, but you probably wouldn't know what it was you were watching.
No, you wouldn't.
So, thank you for the compliment, but I think that is what it was designed to be, was an elegant radio play with gorgeous art attached to it.
Now, obviously, we've got Auto Assembly still going on, so we don't want to take up too much of your time because there's people still downstairs, and we've got your chaperone anxiously waiting in the background. So, are we all right?
Is it my curfew?
You're all right. Yeah. And obviously, you're all right to continue.
I'm good.
Paul.
Fair enough, actually, I sort of Christ, that David's question was exactly what I was going to say, that the fact is, and I'm not saying this, I genuinely mean this, I'm not saying this in a butt-licking way.
You'll have to excuse Paul.
It's the Irish.
I'm not taking it in a butt-licking way.
Chris has given off, we're letting the Irish side in again. In my opinion, if we're not drinking, we're swearing, but the voice acting is impeccable. I did steal my question. I've got two. One is a relatively long one. The second one is very, very quick, and when I ask it, you're all going to get face palm me. But I'll go with the first one first, so just make sure to come back for the second. Just purely for the sake of the podcast. As David said, the voice acting was impeccable, and you mentioned that you you've remained friends with these guys. Now, with me being in a band, I do know that tensions get high, and you will get the fanboys going, did you get a fight with this one, fight with that one? I'm more interested in what were the friendships like, Is there any stories of things just kind of happening? I'm not interested in the fights. I'm more interested in the times where you just kind of came in and had a laugh.
Well, there were plenty of time for both of those things. Not tension, but I would say there was a level of frustration that would build, and so people would do things to sort of just blow off steam, because tension is steam. It's the same thing. Speaking of steam, Frank would occasionally. You would hear a noise in the room, and he would only do this when nobody else, when the sound was off. We weren't dealing with the control room. He had his own fun with them, because he would make sounds of generators arcing and things like that. Everybody would dive for control panels. But for us, when he knew that we were not connected to the other side of the glass, I used to hear this all the time. Only he could do it 10 times that long, and people would hear it at different times and look up at different times and try to figure out what's going on at different times, and it would always end like this. Oh, we're not visual, are we? Let's say we are.
We are visual.
We can be here.
And Frank would go.
That's awesome.
What's the second?
And as far as just quickly, I mean, again, may he rest in well-deserved peace. I could sit and listen to Scatman talk for as long as he would. You knew you were in the presence of this angel, and I guess closest on film would be that character in The Shining. Just this goodness and halo. He just carried it, and it didn't matter what he's talking about. Wally, I just, whatever he wanted to talk about, everybody wanted to listen to. I can't think of specific stories, but it didn't matter. It was just that he was holding court, and you were kind of in the presence of it, and you knew this guy was like a heavenly creature on earth, for real, for real.
I think we know where we're coming from, Greg.
Yeah.
As everyone else in this room's got to facepalm themselves, but if we don't get it on the podcast, no one will respect me. Did you join this operation to be a dump truck?
I didn't join this operation to be no dump truck.
It's Jim. Grimlock gets all the attention. Longhaul not as much. I'm a Longhaul fan.
It's all good.
Well, that's kind of my question really. It's when you got which one did you get first? Did you get Grimlock or was it Skyfire first?
Grimlock first.
Grimlock first.
Yeah.
Did they offer you the parts? Or did you have to audition for them separately?
Very quickly, because it's a long story which I'll make short, but I had done a play that was done originally in New York and brought to Los Angeles and restaged for the Los Angeles stage. I went into that play as an understudy, and on one of the nights that I was asked to go on, or I had to go on, short notice, turned out Wally Burr was in the audience. On a different night, Gordon Hunt, who was the voice director at Hanna-Barbera in those days, did all the voice direction at Hanna-Barbera in those days, had seen me in that show as well. My life changed because of taking that understudy role. I met both Wally and Gordon Hunt. Actually, Wally had read me, but I don't think I'd actually been cast. That's actually, I can't answer that for certain. I may have done an episode of The Littles, which was the first thing I did for Wally. But this sort of strengthened his resolve in me because I was in and out of character. And he did have me in to read for Grimlock. And I saw artist renderings, and I saw that the jaw was kind of locked. And I thought, well, I gotta lock my jaw, and I gotta do this, and I gotta do that. And then I saw, the size of his brain compared to the size of his muscle, and I thought, I gotta factor that in. And then I thought, he's defensive about any comments about him being less than he is, but that's probably his insecurity about himself, and he doesn't like when anybody else points it out. So I tried to bring all this aggression and simple thought process, not stupid, but straight, so in some circumstances, perfectly straight ahead, but subject to other people chiding him. So I had all of that going on. Hit me with a question, because I'm getting off the track again.
Did you, once you got the part of Grimlock, did you have to audition for the others, or?
I did have to audition for Grimlock, but Wally had been impressed by the versatility he had seen in me on stage. And that opened his mind to other possibilities. Because Mr. Little, frankly, the nicer side of me and a real protective dad, but pretty close to neutral. And I don't think he really opened up to the fact that I might have a bigger toolbox than that, and more to draw from until he had seen that. So that unlocked things. Of course I had to audition, and I believe it was 2 or 3 auditions, but from the time, and then you got to put yourself in the head of the casting people, and that's a big responsibility. But once they think you're sort of in a ballpark for a character, then they'll fine-tune you. Wally held all the auditions himself, so it would be more this, less that, lean toward this, factor in more of this. Let me hear more aggression on line 8, let me hear more of this on line 10. So little by little, you sort of close in on it. And the same way, at an on-camera audition or for a feature, they'll say, we'll know it when we see it. The truth is, in casting for animation, they'll know it when they hear it. And that doesn't mean you are over the hump. It just means once you're in that ballpark, then you have to be your most flexible, because now you're getting into third dimension, and now you're getting nuanced. It's like you paint in broad strokes, and then you got to do all that detail work. And you still have to stay flexible because of the question that Simon was asking. As your character changes, which is, that's now in the hands of the writers. Your job is to stay flexible enough to be aware of that and factor it in consistently to what you've already established. Auditioned again for Skyfire, auditioned again for Long Haul, auditioned. So periodically, as new characters would appear, we'd all go back in. And it's not necessarily at the expense of any of the people who read. There can be 50 people reading, or 10 people, or whatever it is. And all of them can be right, but one person, just like the Olympics. I've always said this to my kids as well. The Olympics is not necessarily the best in the world. It's the best in the world on that day. That application, it's the one who didn't get a leg cramp, who might have been the best in the world, but not that day.
Yes.
So all of this obsession with sticking your index finger in the air and being number one, you're number one that day. somebody is more right for that application in that scenario that day, and that's the way things go. But I don't think it should be at the expense of the ego or just self-esteem of whoever didn't get it. They didn't get it that day. So most of us in the cast would have shots at other things as they came up, and somebody would be more right that day for that thing, and so it would lean that way.
Andy, I know you've got something.
Yes, first of all, my
I'm a
business.
blabbermouth.
Get a business card.
What have we just done here?
He's giving you a business card.
The lovely Nicole gave me a business
I did
card,
cheap
so
business
I-
cards.
Oh, yeah, it's
Yeah, but you've
on
asked me for a
cards.
contribution. No, I'm kidding.
No, we're just kidding.
But no, seriously, my question is something kind of based on what me and Dave have both noticed. Like Dave said something about, hey, you were the pain, and boom, straight away you put the pain's voice on. And today I pulled out a.
Well, I hate the bees!
Yeah, exactly like that. I pulled out the Firefly. Boom again. How do you remember all of these roles so quickly?
I just think that if it's what you do, it's what you do. Now, a lot of it, frankly, because of conventions, has been re-established in my short-term memory instead of my long-term memory. But you know, they're all friends, and I think the role I like doing most is whatever the role is that I'm doing at the time. So, you know, it's like family kind of.
Well, how do you remember fans' names? Like we were talking about Vangelis. You remember him from TFCon. Do you have like some kind of photographic memory or something?
No,
Or-
God, I wish I had a photograph. No, but I think in the same way, I don't want to get all metaphysical and cryptic about this, but in my brain, I think that those artist renderings and breakdowns are coming up off the page, and you're going out of yourself, and the goal is to kind of meet in the middle. I think with names, the more sort of effortless you make it, the less hard you try to make that go in and stay, the more likely it is that you just sort of can catch it kind of effortlessly. And I would say I forget as many names as I remember. Some people make an impression. That's a very, very unusual name. I've met 50 people named Simon, so this weekend's kind of tough.
Well, no, it's easy. You could just say, "Oh, Simon." Oh.
Yeah. I was in Russia for 3 months doing Police Academy. I played Yuri Talinsky from Russian Police. I was at one table, and I think there were 3 people named Sasha and 3 people named Pasha at the table. This is Sasha, this is Pasha. This is also Sasha, and this is Sasha number 3. This is Pasha. This is also Pasha. So, you know, you never know.
Do you remember unique names?
I don't know. I would say I forget as many as I remember. Maybe there's a uniqueness to it. I
I'll
just
try
don't know.
something now on the off chance that you might be with us next year. As I said, just quickly, because no, we can't keep
I
it
accept.
too much
Oh.
longer. I will say,
That was too easy.
an awful lot of people in this room will back me up. I introduced you as, I introduced myself as two earlier on, even in fact, it was yesterday, as Paul. But I was very tempted then, and I will tell you now that my nickname, and most of these people here will actually call me by it, it's a name called Von Rojas. Is that one that might stick in your name?
I remembered Paul. So.
Well, for assignment, for me, it's easy to remember because I'm known throughout this entire convention as Silverbolt. So that seems a hell sticky moment. If, you know, if the fates decree that our paths should cross again, just to remember it that way.
Our paths will cross again.
I got another
I hope
question.
so.
I got one more question for you. Movie Grimlock. Would you like to see it? Would you like to see Bay do a Grimlock?
Hell yes.
All right.
Would you like to voice
However, I read hell yes. However, I read the same article everybody else read. Whether it's a ruse or not, I don't know. Whether it's a misdirection or not, I don't know. But he said, I hate the Dinobots. I've always hated the Dinobots. There's no discussion of Dinobots being in any of the live-action features. Sure, I would love to jump in on any level.
Okay, Bay. You're here to hear.
This message goes out to Michael Bay. You're wrong. He's right.
Can I just say,
It's
bingo!
It's neither wrong nor right. They are Michael Bay films. They should be Michael Bay films.
No, he's wrong.
And
Yeah.
Like a tank. It's been a
Dinobots.
tank before.
Dinobots have been discussed, this movie one, right? It's to my knowledge, because his personality was based on Liam Neeson, that G1 Prime, if it wasn't for the fans saying that we want Peter Cullen,
I have heard
Don't make
that.
it on that.
it would have been Liam Neeson. Not that I mind, because I love Liam Neeson, but at the same time, we are the fans and we are speaking out now that there will be Dinobots in the
Oh,
movie.
yeah, it will be.
And it will be done by Gregg Berger.
I believe that starred Daniel Day-Lewis, if I'm not mistaken.
Hey, right. My turn.
Oh, you got a question?
Got two questions. One's more serious, one just jokey, so probably ignore that one.
We will.
Both when we were doing my signature earlier,
Yeah.
the guy that came in front of me, he handed you the comic, Grimgrams, if you
Yeah.
remember. The question is, because we all know that originally Budiansky and Simon Furman wrote Grimlock to be a lot more intelligent and stuff like that,
I've
and the
heard
way
that.
it's right and it's writing, and especially in the Grimgrams when he comes up with those sort of witty retorts to the things. Now you read that, and after you signed it and everything, and you read it and you sort of absorbed it all in. So what I'm saying is what do you think about that interpretation that you know down pat to the interpretation that it just come across, even though it's like over 20 years old?
It's not what I was asked to do.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what I discover now. My obligation was to what I was handed then. I'm fascinated by all of that, and I'm fascinated that different choices were made for the first generation of animation. But it was my real introduction to the entire world, and that was the world that I was introduced to. So that was the world I was asked to breathe in.
Yeah.
And so I did. I thought it was fascinating. This was a guy named Stephen who came up today and has kept this Grimgram from, I believe he said he was 11 when he wrote it or something like that. And he asked me to sign it today. I mean, I just thought that was a fantastic nexus of past, present, and future. It was great.
Because I was just watching that and I was totally in awe. I was thought, oh wow. And it's like, and then it's like you're absorbing it in. And I remember those Grimgrams. I read them and I was like absorbing it myself. And I was like, oh my god, what's he going to make of that? The second question, just ignore it. Just ignore it. What do you think of people coming up to you with smudged autographs?
People coming up to me and
with smudged autographs, because that was in the same sitting.
I don't think anybody should have to walk away with a smudged dog.
Very diplomatic.
So I offered to take the smudged autograph and replace it. She wanted to keep the smudged autograph, which is fine with me. But I did pull out another one, so I replaced it, even though she kept the original. It's the right thing to do.
Has anyone who's not asked a question got anything?
I think Matt had another one. Did you have
No,
another
that was the second question.
Okay.
Do you have any questions for us?
Not a question so much as a statement. I thought this was absolutely fantastic and blew my mind last night on the patio as people were having drinks and seemingly getting acquainted, except people would scream across the patio, "Nicole!" and they go running and I'd give her this like huge hug, and then I'd hear, "It's so nice to meet you," and I thought, what? All of you, David, Simon, all of these people, and this speaks to the absolute World Wide Web
Oh no.
and global nature. I'm going to sneeze, please forgive me. How's that? Stock footage. I do it in threes as a rule. It's allergy, it's not.
I do it in threes,
It's not any kind of anything to be frightened. Don't be frightened. But Simon, so many people are so connected. People knew Barry. People knew so many people. I didn't know about Ray until I was told about that song, which ended up being performed tonight. But this is a global moment in this planet's present, and I don't discredit any of the depth of these friendships. These are real friendships, but you haven't met. I realize this on my end as some terrific friends that I have who I've only met through headphones because I do phone patches to other cities. I have some ongoing things in other cities, and I realize that in some cases I've been talking to these people for as much as 10 years and have never met them save for through my headphones in studio. But it doesn't diminish the friendship. The friendship is for real. Online, even more so. And you're all, those of you who are broadcasting and using the net to do it, you're cultivating audience you haven't even met yet. You're just taking full advantage of the airwaves. And that Time or Newsweek Person of the Year that was just a mirror and said the Person of the Year is you. A lot of people that I know thought that was a cop-out. I don't think it's a cop-out at all. I thought it was brilliant. Because only now, and partially now because of it is in its newness, which makes it fresh, can you declare yourself to be the spokesman of whatever it is you're the spokesman of. I think that's magnificent and fascinating. So, not a question, but a statement, and I think that involves a lot of you, and you know, you're sincere in your passion, and that just is fantastic.
So next year when you see me, will you run across the hallway and say, Nicole?
Yeah, but if I say nice to meet you, you'll slap me in the face, because the nerve.
She'll do worse.
No,
That's just a way of saying hello.
you'll kick me in the, you'll slap me in the face.
Another question then, coming back next year.
Well, I accidentally threw Mark into the wall.
Is that an invitation?
I think that it has been pretty much you. We were just talking about you before you came in. It's pretty much you.
Yeah.
Dave said, you know, we haven't met you 24 hours ago, but nearly everybody's got a Gregg Berger story. So I think you've been 100% fantastic, and I think it is unanimous. We want you back next year.
Thank you.
Before you came in,
Yes, thank you for coming because it's really helped.
Yeah, sorry,
before
Chris,
you
what
came
was-
in, we were all just talking about the best moment of the convention.
And
I think this is the best moment.
Me and Chris here were the only two that knew that you're actually coming up. We actually kept away from these guys.
No,
Oh yeah, Simon knew as well.
Yeah.
Okay, wait, it's my room and no one told me.
If this is,
You're the one who said you wanted Gregg Berger in your room.
That's true.
if this is the final
That's not a
bonfire,
lie.
I think it's about time to sing Kumbaya.
Well, if that's it, Greg, thank you so
Thank
much.
you
for
so
just-
much.
My pleasure. My
For a bit of a
pleasure.
throwback.
I am leaving with friends that I consider friends, and I've made a point. Should I share?
Sure.
I shared website and Facebook address.
Yeah,
You're
sure.
welcome to post any of that.
You gave me your card earlier on, so I can give it to anybody that's
Right, and Facebook is just /Gregg Berger, and there's a MySpace address that's /Voice Virtue, and I'm selling a pre-pressing of my audiobook here, but it will be posting onto iTunes and CD Baby, and it is all of the things that we're talking about, and that's why when people came to my table and said, what is the audiobook about? I can't make it about what I do without making it about who I am.
Yeah.
It's all one, and if I try to separate them, then I'm not me. That's how I perceive all of it. Anyway, I thank you for your interest and your questions, and
Oh, thank
I
you.
have learned things by answering your questions.
Just to wrap up, what I will say is that earlier on you said that, especially about voices and stuff, it was about they were the best person at that day. And this is going to sound incredibly cheesy, but I think every single person in this room will say that you're not the best on this day, you're the best overall. And thank you very much.
Hope nobody hits me in the shin
I was
with a
gonna
lead
say,
pipe.
should I get a pin and pop your head?
Talk about letting off steam. Frank.
So again, thank you so much for joining us. Like when me and Andy started doing this podcast, we never thought we'd be sitting in a hotel room and just have Gregg Berger just saunter in and sit down and stuff.
Yes, you did.
So let it be known that only the Moonbase 2 podcast can sit down and have all of these great people who listen to us and contribute to the show just sitting with a
Have a
legend
crack.
and have just a great time. So
My pleasure, sincerely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's
Thank you,
awesome.
sir, for coming.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And thanks for letting us share the
So-
stage with you as well.
Is it a definite you'll be here next year?
Well, if
I-
you can.
If you can.
Can't
Here's
answer
my
that.
policy.
No, we want.
Let me say this because this is the rule book. I only get to go where I'm invited. And
Alright.
if I'm invited, I would love to attend again.
right, we'll be having a chip in at the end of it.
Three members are here.
Yeah, exactly. So
Have a fish and chip in.
So obviously we were doing this podcast and we had a million different topics to cover, but we cannot top this. So what we're going to do is we're going to finish this off here.
Yes.
Yes.
And obviously let you get some rest because I'm sure you've been having an exhausting.
Maybe.
Do you know what he's doing downstairs?
So
Do you know what he's doing downstairs before we come up?
Yeah, we.
yeah, well, this is why we're ending it now because we've still got half an hour of this going. We're coming downstairs.
Sorry.
So until next time, everybody. This is David, aka KalelPrime,
This is Andy, Cobra Commander TFW.
and this is.
Gregg Berger.
Catch you all next time.
See you later, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Cheers.
Toodles.